This is your current focus and this is your passion, this is your mission, this is what you want to put your current season of energy and effort into, everything needs to be about you, what you've been able to accomplish. You want to highlight any good GCs that you're working with. You want to talk about and or share certain things about the community that you're developing within. Let's say if they have an association meeting, go to the association meeting, snap a photo of you there and talk about how important it is to incorporate yourself and communicate with the community that you're developing within, even if it is just one single family home. Like all of those different opportunities create the ability to brand yourself as a professional in this realm, and ultimately it gets you to a point where you gain that respect from your colleagues without even having to meet them. What's going on, folks? Eddie Carrington, mayor of Flux City. And I had a great conversation today with a young man who is in the real estate realm, just purchased his first house, and he's going through the rigmarole of getting the property fixed up and prepped to eventually sell. So a fix and flip. Really good property, really good opportunity he came across. And of course, when we're talking investment properties, you usually run into some type of headache, or whether it be from a GC that you hire and they don't show, or break-ins for one reason or another. And he's ran into a challenge with his property, but he's figured it out and he's still pressing forward. He's getting close to the finish line. And he reached out to me on LinkedIn a few months back. And recently I ran into him at the Lansing Developer Forum a few weeks ago. And he's like, "Hey, Mr. Carrington, nice to see you in person." And I really do appreciate his tenacity, because via the LinkedIn message, I wasn't able to respond back to him and connect with him the way I wanted to at that time. But when I saw him in Lansing, I'm like, this is a good opportunity for me to carve out some time and figure out what you got going on and how I can help. But having a great conversation with this young man, and I was very impressed by his character and his tenacity and what he has going on. But I feel like there's a number of things to learn from and hear from this conversation from this young man. I mean, there's a lot there's a lot possible in the real estate space. There's a lot of ways you can make money, and there's a lot of ways you can lose money. I think there's 100%. A higher, I think it's closer to 90%, maybe even 95% of the people who buy their first investment property, that's their first and last, due to the amount of headache and reality that strikes when it comes to putting together a team of subcontractors and getting the financing in order. And in some cases, people do hard money, and next thing you look up and you're past the 6-month window with regard to paying back your hard money lender. And so now you got to renegotiate that contract to a point where they may end up taking over the property that you got the loan on in one format or another. And real estate is really, really hard to do when it comes to
I've learned.
Depending on the vertical within the industry you decide to put your energy and effort into. Now, if you're a realtor, obviously you got a lot less liability than somebody who is an investor, who's buying properties and fixing them, flipping them, and or potentially renting them out. And so what's your mission as far as your investment group? Are you guys looking to value add, purchase property, rehab, and either do the BRRRR method? Are you flipping them? Are you renting them out? How many properties do you guys have in your portfolio?
So as of right now, we have one property on hand that we're fixing and flipping. We just put the HVAC. We just put a unit in for the air conditioning. And so that was kind of like the last step. And now we're moving towards disposition of that property, putting that on the market. So that's just the one we have at the moment. And that's moving towards market ready. So our overall mission for the company is we're a company that we acquire, we renovate, with a plan. This is the overall plan.
Yep.
Rent out and sell residential real estate long-term with the long-term plan for new construction, becoming a full-service real estate company, having a property management division, and having both GCs and agents in-house. And so the overall goal is to scale as much as possible while pulling from within to keep our quality, our expectations, and company standard at the forefront. And so that's the general overall vision for where I want the company to go. But I figured going about that in phases. Mm-hmm. And so at this point, it's getting the understanding, acquiring a property, renovating the property. And once you have that basic skill, that foundational skill, I would say, you can then move on to, you can then do the burn. You can then do just managing your property. You can then, you can go in so many different directions. I feel like, and so I've heard from other seasoned investors doing and getting that understanding, that overall foundational concept of acquiring a property, renovating the property, and then an exit strategy from there can differentiate.
Absolutely. Yep. So I definitely appreciate you explaining that and talking through that. It sounds like you've really given this a ton of thought and time as you kind of flesh out your brand and how you see CPIG moving forward. This is really a great opportunity for you with this first property to prove to yourself, and more importantly to yourself, but also your supporters and your future investors. At the end of the day, this is your resume, and I'm hoping that you are doing your due diligence when it comes to documenting the process from the purchase to the rehab and ultimately to the eventual sale of this property. And I see it on your Instagram page. I'm thinking that this is the house that you ended up purchasing.
Yes. So that Tracy property, it's a brown brick building.
Yep, looks good.
Yep.
Looks like it's in decent shape. Is that how you got it when you purchased it? And how did you buy it? Was it a foreclosure? Was it a private sale? Tell me about that whole process.
So it was on the market. It was Zillow, your traditional platform where you would go to just, like, if you were trying to get your own home. So it was on those sites. We found it on that property. It had just gone maybe less than 48 hours, and we were able to get a hold of it, as in look at it, comp it, and within those 48 hours, we were able to get a call to the agent and a tour of the property in relatively short order. As we went and further delved into the deal, we found out that it was a probate property.
Okay. So tell me about that process. You can help educate me on that whole
ordeal. A mother had passed away. Some people go about it in the proper fashion. Other people try to skirt the system because the mother had some outstanding debt from Medicare.
Okay.
And they were trying to recoup their money via the properties, the assets that she had.
Okay.
And so he tried to quit claim the property, so it didn't land on her assets, as in her assets, and a part of her will was that he would get the property, and so on and so forth. So he tried to skirt the system. It did not work. So it brought about a longer process than it would have normally been. If you just saw a property, you got the comps, you came to an agreement, and hit the closing table. So it was a little bit of a longer process because we had to get probate attorneys involved. They found out that he tried to quit claim the property, and they said, listen, I mean, I understand what you try to do. I understand it's in her will that you have the property, but they had to get the money back. Medicare went about getting the money back via that property. So
wow.
They end up getting their money back. If they didn't get their money back on this property, she had two properties. So it was a Tracy property, the one that we purchased, and a Prevost property that a family member had moved into.
Okay.
And so they were on notice that they might have to leave, but they end up being able to get all of the money. They figured out how much money she owed. They they were out. They were, long story short, they were able to get all the money out of that property, that Tracy property. And so at that point, it was smooth sailing from there. We went to the closing table. Our property, no, we closed in Troy. I don't know if the title company, Devon Title, they handled everything seamlessly, and we acquired the property and started moving to renovation.
When you're networking, tell me what you're looking to get out of these connections that you're making. For an example, in Lansing, you had the opportunity to rub elbows with a number of individuals from across the real estate profession, and hoping that you were able to get your name, your card out. But what actionable steps are you actually trying to take with regard to these conversations that could help you now and more so in the future as well?
So the steps that I'm looking to, or the things that I'm looking to get back from going to these meetings, not just information, because knowledge is power, but it's only power if I use the information and apply it.
Right.
So not only just information, but also I'm learning in this social media day and age, and not just now, but I'm sure it was relevant prior to, the onset of social media and its overwhelming capacity to put you in the face of people that you don't know. So I'm understanding everything is a brand. If people don't know you, they don't make deals with you. If people don't make deals with you, you don't make money. You don't make money. You don't make you don't make headway in the market. You don't get to understand the things that only life experience can teach you, or experience in these deals can teach you. You don't get to meet the who's who's. You don't get to meet the actual players, the power players in the market. You're on the fringes. And so what I look to get out of networking meetings and going to these events, such as like the one in Lansing, is to understand, okay, who's actually doing things in the market. How can I position myself to be in the places that they're in, so that they can see my face, that they can come to trust that I'll show up. They can come to trust that I have the intangibles, showing up on time, bringing what I know to the table, offering myself to whatever I need to lend myself to, whether it's, hey, somebody that does plumbing, somebody that owns a restaurant. I have a event that I want to do, and I need some restaurant space. Whether it lends itself to the actual deal, or it lends itself to the person's needs outside of real estate, being that ultimately showing up, presenting myself as a person that others could buy into and say, hey, I wouldn't mind bringing him along. Absolutely. So that's probably the thing that I'm aiming for, as in these networking meetings. But also I'm looking to long-term play, be seen. Just be
Absolutely.
seen.
Absolutely. And I think that's important. And it also helps getting comfortable around these individuals that we're rubbing elbows with, because most of the people that we are going to be talking to that are in decision making roles may not necessarily look like us. And so making sure that we're comfortable interacting with them, and making sure that we don't put those different mental barriers in place, saying, hey, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not able to have these types of conversations because of one reason or another. Those opportunities to interact with this crowd, an example, the one in Lansing a few weeks ago, that gives us a chance to really just kind of prove to ourselves that we're able to have these high level, mid level, and eventually low level conversations when it comes time to have those conversations. Because in a lot of scenarios, I see us getting in the way of us. A lot of times, people are just too afraid to go up and have a conversation, even if it's just about the weather. Go up and hand a card to these individuals, talk about what you got going on, because we are just in general in this mindset that we're not good enough. So I'm really happy to see you in the crowd, and see you do your thing there. And so that just brings me to another question: how can I help you in this current season that you're in?
So as of right now, like I mentioned, I just want to be able to. I don't expect. No one knows me. I'll just start there. No one knows. And so I don't expect people to give me the shot that I believe I deserve based on what I know about myself. And so what I'll ask from an investor or someone that is entrenched in the market, actually doing deals from ground, from all in these different arenas, an opportunity to be in the places that you're in, see the type of people that you see, gain the experience of what it takes, who you need to talk to, how you need to operate in different arenas to get a job done. Like you mentioned, there's not a lot of us that feel comfortable doing what it needs to. Let's say, for lack of a better terms, code switching, talking to a neighbor versus talking to a CEO, talking to an investor. There's different types of conversations. And if you've never been in those environments, you don't ever understand the different dynamics it takes to get the job done in those different arenas and those different conversations. Absolutely. And so for me, it would just be getting an understanding of, hey, I'm going to be in Jeff Chalmers, that corridor this week, talking to neighbors about a property I want to do out there.
Yeah.
If you don't mind letting me, let's say, shadow and come along that journey, come along that ride, and say, hey, this is how I operate. Just getting an understanding. I don't need a bunch of conversation. I'm a type of person that I learn based on seeing environments. I pick up on things pretty easily. In my personal opinion, based on the information, the experience that I have, the knowledge that I have, the places that I've been in.
Yep.
And so just being in that environment, saying, hey, I'm not talking to a neighbor that I'm trying to tear the next door house down. It's abandoned building. I'm not talking to this neighbor like I'm going to talk to my friend that I've known for 25 years. I'm letting him know that, hey, listen, I'm not coming for your house. This is the only one that I want. I'm not coming for your house. I'm putting him at ease. Listen, this is going to raise the property value up in your neighborhood. Just, hey, look out for this house. If you see anything, what do you know about the property? What do you, so on and so forth, those type of conversations. And so that's just really what I'm looking for. Money is going to come. I'm not really a big money guy. Of course, you're in the industry, the business to make money, but money's going to come. I'm 23 years old. I'm not raising a family right now. I have aspirations to get married soon. And within that union, children will come, but I'm not really looking for making oodles and oodles of money right now. That's just unrealistic.
That's understandable. And
just gain the experience, because if I gain it in 23, I just build on it 24, build on it 25, then apply a deal to it 26, so on and so forth. And now I look up, I'm 30 years old, way farther than I could have imagined that I would be in based on experience. I know people do business with people that they know. And so I'm just trying to get into the face of people that are doing business so that they can get to know me.
Absolutely. And so I'm definitely open to keep you in the loop. I do have a project that we're thinking through community engagement and strategy now. More specifically, the timing with which we're planning on starting the engagement process. And once again, I'll keep you in the loop, but there may be also other opportunities that I can fold you in order to see if there is a chance for you to be interested in sharing some of your time and energy to assist with what I got going on. And vice versa, if there's an opportunity that you have that you in turn need some assistance and some direction on, I'm not saying that I know everything. You're pretty sharp. You're a pretty sharp dude. And when you talk about code switching, there's no need to code switch. You're the key to it all. Like and that's where once you get to a point where, of course, there's professionalism, but when it comes to code switching, you will always get more respect being yourself than trying to adjust for the next person. And so just make sure that you just stay professional. And at the end of the day, don't feel that you have to make any other adjustment outside of the fact that you're authentic, your shit, how to execute, which is the most important, and you're truthful, right? And you're honest and you're upfront, and you make sure that the community that you are developing within or buying homes within and investing within, they exactly what you said, know who you are. Those are the people that really matter. And the funding partners and all of the other potential partners for a particular deal matter only once you have the the right project. Once you get the right project, all of the other things are going to fall in place. And so that's where the challenge comes in play. What's the right project? What's the right opportunity? What has the most potential to get funded, especially when we're talking commercial development. There are certain zones, specifically in the city of Detroit, that have grant dollars allocated to it. And so, therefore, that if you're and when you're ready to level up and get into the larger projects, those are the types of strategies and things that you just got to keep in mind, looking for projects in certain areas that have the potential to gain subsidy to allow for you to build up the block in a way where a lot of us don't. A lot of us look at single family fix and flips as the end all be all, and you can make a lot of money on
Yeah.
the single family side. Actually, a lot of people that I know who are on the single family side make more money than me on a yearly basis, because you may look up and after a good 4 or 5 months of effort and a bit of headache, you've made 40 grand off of a flip, right? Or let's say you acquire 10, 15 properties over the years, and half of them, maybe even a majority of them, are rented out to Section 8 tenants, which provides you guaranteed monthly income, right? You're living good once you get to that point. But at the end of the day, if you're determined to level up and eventually get to a point where you're able to do not just single family but bigger, just like you said, stay on the path that you're on. And it's also important to take chances, take risks, which you are doing with this current property that you bought. You may have to step out of your comfort zone in order to see if there's an opportunity for you to go bigger, and in turn benefit from that risk with that bigger reward, whether it be appreciation down the line or a bigger percentage of profit when it comes time to flip the property. But yeah, we're definitely here for you. I'm here for you, and whatever I can do to assist, I'll definitely keep you in the loop. Once again, I like your energy. I like the way you look at things, and if there's anything I can do to help, I'm definitely gonna do my best to kind of get you in a position where you're able to see something that and experience something that you may not have been able to do so up until this point. But whether it be with me and me assisting you and or not, you're going to be successful in this realm. You just got to just keep going, no matter if you take an L. Just keep pushing through it, and that's another thing to be mindful of. You eventually will take an L.
I took an L on this first ever deal. Like, I had a bad contractor.
Yep.
I had a terrible contract. They set me back several months because, like I said, like, I don't think I mentioned it, but all of this is 100% funded by us.
Absolutely.
And so, limited capital deployed on your first deal. I understood we were working on the property has significant value as far as when you put it on market and you can sell it. You can recoup a lot of losses, but that's if you get to the point where you can sell. Right. So we had a bad contractor, held us up for some months, and so now we're back on track. We've actually had the property for a year now, and because of the bad contract, we've been stalled out for a little bit of time trying to get back and make sure the project gets done. But we're moving towards completion now, so that's a plus. So I understand where you talk about you're going to take it. I took a fat one.
Yeah, absolutely, and that won't be the only one. I remember paying a plumber. A plumber did me really well on 2 previous properties. He came in, did his job. He was the easiest person to work with. The third house I had him work on, I said, I'm gonna just pay you all up front. Here's this $1,200. Pick up the material. I'll see you soon. Never saw him again. Never answered my calls. And that's just one of many stories. And of course, you even have one with your first property. And if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. There is one thing I want to point out, and
Yes, sir.
just looking over your brand, don't take any of this personal.
No, hey, give me everything. I'm willing to take anything and make it better.
Not a fan of having LLC in your website name, and which also reciprocates over into your email and your branding potentially. Whatever you need to do in order to kind of shrinken your brand when it comes to your public brand, there's an opportunity to get a shorter website name. I would recommend consider doing that. As far as your social media, it looks like you only have Instagram for this page.
Yep.
I would also recommend figuring out a way to take out the LLC here, but I think that's okay. No big deal on your Instagram page. And post more. But I do love this statement here, inviting you home, full service real estate company with you in mind. Like, you've put a lot of thought into these types of details, right? The only person that really is gonna help get this name out is you, and your personal brand is really important. And so, like, be more consistent with your posts. Like, this was a good post here, right? This was 5 months ago where you posted about you out networking, talking business. That's the type of stuff you want to continue to do, right? I think that's a really, really good opportunity for you to brag about yourself. Like, how come you didn't post about the Lansing event? Hopefully you took a couple of photos while you were there.
Yeah, I did take a couple of photos. So this is where I have to develop at. I'm not a big social media guy, so it has to be a task for me to do. It's not something that just comes innate, and so that's where I need to develop at. I thought about that not too long ago. Actually, before we got on the call, I'm like, man, I didn't even post about Lansing. Yeah. Nobody knew I was there other than people that I talked to.
Yeah, you want to make sure you post about those types of opportunities in order to just get used to posting more. And that's a perfect post. Like, how come you don't brag about, unless you got a full-time job and you weren't supposed to be there, which is actually more realistic than it's like. A lot of people in real estate are doing real estate on the side. That's how I started off with real estate. It took me until 2023 to become full-time real estate. But at the end of the day, if this is your current focus and this is your passion, this is your mission, this is what you want to put your current season of energy and effort into, everything needs to be about you, what you've been able to accomplish. You want to highlight any good GCs that you're working with. You want to talk about and or share certain things about the community that you're developing within. Let's say if they have an association meeting, go to the association meeting, snap a photo of you there, and talk about how important it is to incorporate yourself and communicate with the community that you're developing within, even if it is just one single family home. Like, all of those different opportunities create the ability to brand yourself as a professional in this realm, and ultimately it gets you to a point where you gain that respect from your colleagues without even having to meet them. Be a little more aggressive with your social media posts. And when we talk social media, Instagram and LinkedIn, with LinkedIn being primary, and then your Instagram is secondary. And then eventually we want you to get into long form content where you have your YouTube and things of that nature. But LinkedIn and Instagram are your two best friends as of right now, because this gives you an opportunity to really brag about yourself. And I'm saying that in a good way. Don't be afraid to brag about yourself, because I also see a lot of us quiet about all of the amazing things that we're doing. When you have platforms that are designed for us to be able to go on to these platforms to talk about all of the things that we're accomplishing, ultimately helping us find our tribe within that subset of professional industry, right? So you really wanna be a little bit more proactive with your posts.
It makes sense.
Also, your logo, I would recommend updating your logo, maybe going to Fiverr, spending $50, letting somebody have at it with regard to coming up with 2 or 3 different designs for you, and that's another thing to be mindful of as well. But overall, I think you're doing a good job, and I really do see success for you sooner rather than later. You just stay at it, and like I said, from my end, I'll do my best at trying to fold you into certain things that I see could be beneficial for your time. Definitely a fan of what you've been able to accomplish up until this point, and this first property. Here's the thing. I'm not trying to sound like a Debbie Downer. You haven't sold it yet, right? And
Yeah,
so
no, percent.
there are still a lot of things that can happen between now and when you actually flip the property. Stay vigilant and don't take anything lightly. Don't take anything for granted. If your property hasn't been, knock on wood, broken into or picked with, still make sure you do your due diligence. Drive over there, sit in there for a couple of hours on your phone with your car outside. So if when people drive by, they can see that this property is one that has activity, right?
Yeah.
And another thing, you got your CPL?
I don't.
Okay.
That's another thing that someone mentioned to me that would be a good idea to get.
You got to
And so
make sure.
I had already like, hey, I'm in the city of Detroit. I'm moving around with these properties. It was a thought that came across my mind, but it was further reinforced when somebody else mentioned it.
Okay. Well, make sure you look into that in order to put yourself in a format that allows for you to hold yourself down. Because in some scenarios, you're going to find yourself in a property by yourself, and you just never know what could happen. Somebody could see you cutting grass in the backyard, and they could walk up on you. And it is a good opportunity for you to just even the playing field if in fact somebody is having some ill intentions towards you
Yeah.
in one format or another.